Okay, well, I'd like to welcome everybody on behalf of the Downtown Business Association in our continuing webinars for the small business. We have a very relevant topic today. The topic is e-commerce for your small business during this time and what available tools are out there for you. I am Chris Aitken. I am the chair of the Downtown Business Association and also a principal of the law firm Aitken & Cohn. I'm very, very pleased to welcome Dan Schoenberg, Dan Schoenberg, who is the owner of Schonberg Design, a one-man creative digital marketing agency in San Clemente. He possesses over 15 years as a graphic designer in the headquarters of major medical marketing departments and agencies. Dan now uses that experience to help small local businesses compete. Currently is ranked #1 on Google for graphic design in San Clemente, has 25-star reviews. You can see all of the visually stunning examples by visiting danclemente.com. And also, just as a marker, we are allowing questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. But without further ado, I'd like to welcome Dan. And Dan, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
And please, I will leave the floor to you. Can you please let us know as far as maybe what your initial thoughts are for e-commerce for small business?
Sure. Can you get that the ringer?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So it's 2020. We all know a lot of stuff's hitting the fan. Everybody's worried about things right now, and I'm here to tell you that e-commerce isn't something you should worry about. It should be something that you should be looking forward to as a solution. Now, do you have to work at it? Yes. You have to fork over some dough to get started? Yes. But let's put it in perspective, shall we? Compare it to a brick and mortar store. Can it be more expensive than all that goes with a brick and mortar store? No way. And that's the whole point of the internet. So while things might sound expensive, you look at the equivalent. Look at the rent on a brick and mortar store, and then look at the hosting fees for your website, and it's significantly cheaper. So the comparisons are there, and it's still a really affordable way to go. There's been generations of science that has culminated in thousands of coders and tech inventors competing to make tools that help our life. These tools they produce for these. They've produced these tools for moments like this. So use them. If you think you're behind the times, think again. Technology changes so fast that even professionals can find their skills to be obsolete in the whim of the industry. No one's an expert in e-commerce because it's basically all-encompassing like a brick and mortar store. Somebody might be good at pricing strategies. Somebody might be good at creative. Somebody might be good at setting up the website. But it's just like business. You need specialists in each thing. You need an accountant. But you can learn the latest tools that they have with little experience and get started. And every year it gets better and better, and you have to do less and less to run a website or e-commerce store, because each of these tools, they have staffs of people trying to make it easier every year. Not to say that you don't need help. You will need help, and you should have a little realistic budget set aside for accountants, photographers, creatives, website developers. You might set up, a tool like eBay or Shopify or Amazon. You're not going to need these kind of things, but you will. There's going to be times where you're going to need these people, so you should have somebody on standby. If you can't afford them, there's a lot of forums you can join and meet people, meet mentors, and things, and make trades, or even a little bit of both. But you should definitely have a specialist in each industry that you go to. This guy's really good at pricing, and this guy's really good at that. And so there's that. The first step is trying to figure out what tool's right for you. And probably arguably the most important. Are you taking your existing website and making a store out of it? Are you going to use Shopify, Amazon, eBay, Etsy? There's a million tools, a million ways to do it. And you can be overwhelmed by these choices. And it's hard not to. But you want to just take your time in this step. This step is a little bit, you take your time and do your research. There's a million factors in choosing these things. So I'm going to break down the main ones for you. But even if you get out of this talk and say, okay, Amazon is for me, I urge you to please do research and maybe call somebody you know owns an Amazon store. Look at your competition, maybe an out-of-market competitor, and call them up and ask questions and find out what the worst thing is about the tool you're about to embrace. So anytime I'm going to use a new software tool, I look up the worst reviews. And a lot of times they're things like, oh, it costs too much, or it didn't work with my PC. Well, you know, whatever, those are nothing, so negligible. So a product could have a lot of bad reviews, but the reviews are something that doesn't even affect you. Remember, the web is still the Wild West, and things change fast. You have different browsers, different standards of the web, and people updating this, and other companies not updating that. So things are going to get buggy, and things might not work. Don't be frustrated. Look it up. See if other people are having the problem. Ask your mentors, and just breathe. Be ready to pivot. You know, like I said, things change in a heartbeat. There were some years ago that PayPal raised their rates, and that affected a lot of businesses, the way they did business. They were really comfortable in PayPal, and they were really insisting people use PayPal, and they had to pivot fast. And it wasn't any fault of their companies, but it was PayPal's fault. So be ready to pivot as the industry changes. Look at your competitors, but not too much. You want to look at your competitors, see if they're offering free shipping, see what their prices are, see how they're working the rebates or refunds. But also at the same time, don't do that with the intent of copying them. Do that to get a feel for what they're doing, and then say, what could I do that's going to differentiate me now? Nobody, they're all offering free shipping, so what am I going to do? Offer free shipping too? Okay, I need something else. Experiment too. In the beginning, you want to experiment a little bit. Maybe you set up, try this with free shipping, try that without free shipping, try some different things. And like I said, be ready to pivot. Have a strategy, more of a creative strategy. Like, let's say you're selling, what's an example here? I have a friend that sold art. And he went and did all the things that artists should do, and went to every show, all the shows and everything. And he wound up only really making money on eBay. But it's not the case for all artists, because he had this kind of like really dark, disturbing art that had a niche audience. And eBay has a lot of weird stuff on it, so he found a place for himself there. But other artists might not sell on eBay, but they might sell paintings in galleries too. So you have to realize that just because your competitor is doing good on eBay doesn't mean you're going to be, because he might have a cult following or something like that. Do the math, but not too much. Also, you want to check out, when you go into these platforms and you see okay, I'm gonna charge this much, so their commission is gonna be this much. I'm gonna have to sell this many a week to get that much. I'm gonna have to fork out this and do all that math. But that's also gonna drive you crazy, because there's so many variables that you can change at any minute. So you want to do that. Get an idea what you're going for, but don't think that it's got to be this like finished equation that works. Just have an idea what you're shooting for. Have a content strategy. When you put your pictures of your product up, you put multiple pictures up. It's important that one of those pictures, if you take an opportunity to sell your product in one of those pictures. So people usually have a side angle, top angle. Have one of the pictures be a detail with maybe a little circle and an arrow saying, easy fix, or whatever the case, whatever the benefit of the product is. Other one, test it too. When you set up a website and you do it, test it. Have a friend sit next to you with a computer and go to your website or go to whatever your portal is and enter it, and have them say, oh, I'm confused by this, or I don't understand this, or we have to do that, didn't work. Make sure you test before you start pushing it out to people. We'll dive right into Amazon here. I'll give you the basics of Amazon. So Amazon, you want to think of it as retail sales, as opposed to there's not much, if at all, used items on there. They have about overall 1 million merchants overall. It's a pretty giant organization, as you know, and they are growing. They're not. There's no signs of them pulling back. As far as people using other tools, Amazon is still growing, and they're doing a lot of great things. A lot of the great things that you get out of Amazon is they have a really helpful community of sellers. So you want to join a forum where you're going to meet mentors and people to help answer your questions. There's a strong community of people that do that. It's more reliable because they have it's a larger amount of people visiting the site, so you can have a larger access to people. It's more straightforward than eBay. There's a lot of, when we get into the choices of all the things that you have, like I said before, shipping, not shipping, this and that, it gets really granular. And Amazon's a little more straightforward than eBay is. And Amazon really encourages your growth, and they'll give you the tools. They want you to succeed. There's tools you can get and tutorials that they'll give you, all sorts of different things that you can do that Amazon wants you to make money. Some of the cons of using Amazon is that you're competing with other merchants. So let's say you had a Shopify website, you're not competing with anybody. It's your website. If they're on your website, you're on the website. They're on your website. But you also don't have the 277 million users that Amazon has also. So people say, well, I don't want to pay a cut to Amazon. I'm going to start my own Shopify account. Well, good luck getting 277 million people to visit it. So it's a balance. Do I think I can compete with these people, or do I want to pull people over to my website with a different strategy and get them to buy there without paying Amazon or eBay? Amazon has subscription fees, and I can't tell you the numbers because they change. There's so many variables when you go to sign up. How large is your company? What are you selling? They're going to give you a million choices. There's pro plans. I think they're about $40 a month, but per item fees, but that varies by category. There's an individual plan that's no fee, but it's only about $1 item per sold, plus fees that vary by that category. So you have to kind of get in there with your product and start doing research and realize, like, I'm going to sell my product on Amazon. What's the fee for this category? Read the pro plan, and I can provide some links at the end of this too, but look into the pro plans. About 12% of third-party sellers on Amazon are able to establish a six-figure business. These are people that are using all the tools that Amazon has to offer. I want to backtrack a little bit and tell you some of the factors. When I talk about all the factors that affect the price on Amazon, you're looking at the factors of competition. How many competitors do you have? You have a unique product with no competitors, you'll be better placed. Do you have brand awareness? People know about your brand, or are they actually entering it? Are they familiar with it and they're comfortable with it? And Amazon will see that. And quality of the product, that's also going to matter as well. Now, Amazon has something called FBA services, where Amazon fulfillment. Now, if this is something we could really embrace and make a good amount of money, but it is a little bit of a pay-to-play situation. And but they can do things like give you warehouse space, ship. They can even give you product to sell. You don't even know what to sell. I don't even have anything to sell, but I want to start an Amazon store. Amazon will say, okay, here's these things. You can go sell these on Amazon. We have them in our warehouse. We'll ship them. We'll take care of all that stuff. Those articles wind up having better visibility because you're paying them, and Amazon's putting you higher rankings. They'll do shipping. They'll do returns. They'll do fast shipping even during peak times. It's kind of amazing. And that also gives you free shipping to Amazon Prime members. So Amazon Prime members are going to be looking for the Amazon Prime symbol when they're scrolling through because they get free shipping. So if you're part of the Amazon FBA services, the fulfillment services, you can have one of those symbols. What does this cost? Again, it's so many factors. There's a lot of factors. That you're one person or you're an enterprise company. they're gonna take you for what they can take you for, but it could be worth it if you put the effort in. There's no doubt that Amazon charges a fair price, but you're going to get something out of it. One of the cons of the Amazon fulfillment is you don't get to brand your own product with this. Customers are going to feel like it's coming from Amazon with some of these fulfillment services packages. I think you might be able to have it where you have your own product branded, but it's a different tier. And like I said, when you get into the FBA services, you'll see a lot of different choices and ways you can go about it. Some of the things, if you're going to get into Amazon FBA services, you want to have a clever marketing strategy. You want to be ready to do some Amazon pay-per-click campaigns, which you probably have to hire somebody to do and be ready to fork out some dough for a pay-per-click campaign. But that's also going to work. These are things that work on Amazon. And a good understanding of the algorithms of Amazon search engine optimization. So getting yourself to the top of Amazon is kind of like its own thing, like getting yourself to the top of Google. Within the Amazon platform, you want to follow all their directions and read their articles on how to get yourself higher. Amazon fulfillment is also good if you have a large product and it's hard to ship and you don't want to have a garage full of ping pong tables. You can use Amazon fulfillment for that. All right, so that's Amazon. Does anybody have any questions about Amazon?
Dan, I have a question. It's not necessarily about Amazon specifically, but it came up earlier. One question that came up is, you mentioned something called Etsy. What is Etsy? That's the question I got.
Etsy is another platform more like Shopify, where you can, well, it's actually a little bit different. I'm not that familiar with Etsy, but it's another platform that I was going to speak to next time.
Well, I know you got Shopify coming up, so we can shift to that. Obviously, Amazon's a major player, so I think the other player you mentioned was eBay. Can you tell me a little bit more about eBay and how that differentiates from Amazon?
Sure. So eBay, if you think of Amazon as doing retail sales, eBay is more of an online auction. It's also a little bit more global. Now, Amazon's global, but it's kind of thought of as a global marketplace, more like you just kind of come across, it's a little bit set up for you to shop around the world as opposed to shopping around America. It's got new and used and a lot of unusual items. So there's going to be things that Amazon is not going to put up there, but something weird and unusual that somebody has in their garage or decided to paint. It's got about 25 million sellers, that average of about 40 products per seller, and it's got about 170 million users. One of the pros of eBay is it lets you use PayPal. Amazon does not let you use PayPal. I forgot to mention that before. So there's no PayPal use with Amazon. Some of the cons of eBay is that there's back to a lot of factors involved, and there's kind of gray areas that are hard to figure out on eBay as far as like how much am I going to have to pay when I sell this item for $75. It's kind of hard to figure out sometimes because they're largely affected by the number of bids, how aggressive the buyers were. Algorithms, they're hard to figure out. So you have to kind of be ready for that. But it's pretty easy to set up an eBay store for sellers. Just sign up for a professional account, go to sell your item, create a list of the item for what you want to sell, confirm your details, and enter your payment information. It's pretty much that simple to set up an eBay store and start selling. The factors here include, excuse me for a second. Factors, definitely quality. Is it new or used? The countries you ship to, that's a big factor too. Product availability, do you have a lot in stock? Are you out of stock? People are going to figure it out fast if you're out of stock on things normally. Uniqueness, and of course demand, just good old-fashioned demand. The fees that you pay, listing fee, or it's also known as an insertion fee, for each item, and then there'll also be a final value fee that you'll have to pay when the item sells. And both of those, like I said, they're gray areas, and they're going to change depending on all the factors that you have. Figured out. But definitely, as you set up things, read when they say, "Oh, we suggest you read this." You know, you might want to read that and kind of follow their prompts in the beginning, all of them. Now, for a few extra dollars, you can run your own eBay shop, which again, the benefits largely benefit upon plans, largely, because there's really a big difference. And I have a link to this, but the benefits include reaching the right audience and managing your own, managing your orders, and even building your brand in a way that Amazon, at least the fulfillment side, doesn't let you do. Now, both eBay and Amazon, I just wanted to make a side note. Don't avoid asking people to click on a link that takes them to your website, because that's good for you. Amazon and eBay, they don't want that, and they're gonna note that and probably penalize you somehow. They want to keep the customer there for obvious reasons. Also, too, on eBay and Amazon, at least Amazon, you want to avoid having really large discounts, like overly large discounts. It's just something that they don't like. And of course, you know, don't leave negative reviews for your competitors. It's just gonna, you know, it's not gonna make you look good. That's the basics of eBay for the most part.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions came up.
Yeah.
One is, what is PayPal and why is that so important? Because it seems like you differentiate that between the first two platforms.
Sure.
Tell me a little bit more about PayPal, why you think that's important.
PayPal is a tool that people can use to make online purchases. So they go up, they set up a PayPal account, they enter their banking information, either the routing number or their credit card. And then when they want to make an online purchase or pay somebody or receive money, they can use the PayPal portal to do that online. Now, why is this better than using a credit card? Because sometimes the credit card, setting it up with a credit card system is a whole thing you have to do too. And sometimes people just say, you know what, PayPal is a little bit easier. It's a little more secure. Some people might think it's more secure as well. If you put up your credit card portal, you're taking people's information and whatnot. But if you have PayPal, it's a lot more secure. And yeah, you pay a fee for it, but it's, you're paying for security, transactional security.
Okay, and I think you mentioned also earlier. So at least me, for like as a layperson, I think I'm pretty darn familiar with Amazon and pretty darn familiar with eBay. You then talked about something called Shopify. I can tell you, I'm definitely less familiar with Shopify. Can you kind of take us through,
Sure.
from an e-commerce perspective, Shopify and what that's all about?
Sure. So Shopify is different than eBay and Amazon as far as it's going to be your own website. It's your own website. Nobody's going to come to it unless you get them to go to it. The good part is you don't have to pay Amazon or eBay any money for anything you sell. Shopify has all these tools built, so you have pre-built PayPal tools, credit card transactional in a safe way, maybe Venmo, all these different payment ways, and it's just easier to set up on Shopify than it is if you had a WordPress site or a Wix site. You can do it. It's arguably easier on Shopify because Shopify was built from the ground up for online stores, not just for websites. It was built for online store websites. That's its sole purpose. So if you're going to have an online store, Shopify is going to be really easy and fast to set up. They have a lot of pre-built templates that you can choose from. And then you could also hire a developer to make you a custom Shopify website. If you don't like the templates and themes that are there, you can have somebody create a custom one for you. Yeah, you don't get the traffic of Amazon or eBay. You do get a little buy button that you could put on your website or your blog or different places you could share it. There's a little, somebody is selling your product on their website. There's a little buy button. So that comes pretty handy. When you set up a Shopify account, you want to make sure that your accountant's going to be, you have an accountant on standby, because there's going to be a section where you're going to have to fill out your tax information. Now, Shopify has it pre-filled out with each state's tax laws that differ. But the thing is, they don't update it all the time. You have to have your tax guy go in there state by state and check Shopify's work, because tax laws change sometimes faster than Shopify can do it. That's that's the beat on the street, at least. It's not good. You think, well, Shopify should be taking care of that, but I'm not sure the reason behind it, but that's something that you want to have your tax accountant confirm. Also, you're going to want to, there's a lot of choices as well as far as free shipping. You want to offer free shipping and raise your rates to cover that. And there's labels and boxes and drop shipping, and you want to kind of go through all that with a test with you and your team, and realize, okay, we got a system here, this is how it works. Even a lawyer, maybe have a lawyer, your attorney, check out the website and go through the terms and the service settings and make sure that you're going to be okay. I'm not sure about insurance. I can't speak to insurance if you need that or not. Now, as far as some of the cost anticipations, if you're going to set up a Shopify site from scratch, here's some of the things you want to expect to pay for out of the gate just to get the site up and running. You're going to want to buy a domain, hosting, and security. And these prices always change with specials and packages. So these are just basic prices, but when you call them up, they're going to say, yeah, but if you do it for 3 years and buy this too, you get this. And they're changing their prices all the time, and they're always having specials and always doing it. So this is the basics. Also too, all the hosts are the same. If you're talking about GoDaddy or HostGator or whatever it is, and you're like, which one's the best? It doesn't matter. You get onto other things, it's like you get better things to worry about. One of them might do one thing better and have a better price on something, and 6 months later they're going to raise their price. It's just splitting hairs. Ford versus Chevy. I would just pick one. Usually, if you're going to buy the domain, get the hosting from the same company you bought the domain from. It's just a little bit of an easier and seamless way to do it. Also, if you have a web developer or website person and they say, I have my own servers, let's put your website on my own server. And this way we don't have to pay GoDaddy. This is just my opinion. I think it's a terrible idea. GoDaddy has teams of professionals that have servers and server experience, and that's all they do. Your website guy has a server in his house. Yeah, he's a tech guy, but you're going to be able to hold him accountable if something goes wrong. And then there's something that I don't like. It's a really nasty tactic, is people will, I've had people tell me, get your own server so you can hold your customers' files for hostage if they ever want to fire you. And so if you want to make sure that the customer you have all your files. It's your account, and you have access to it. Hosting your domain name is going to cost you about $100 a year. You could pay a little bit more and buy it for life. It also could cost more depending on what domain name you go for. The shorter it is, the more expensive it could be. You'll find out that as you go. You're going to need an SSL certificate, and that protects the users of your site. So when people go to your website, their information is vulnerable if you don't have an SSL certificate. A hacker can go to your website and see who's on your website and actually hack into their account. So you're protecting the users of your site. That's a pretty big requirement these days. If your website does not have an SSL certificate, you need to get one right away. That's about $75 a year. Now, like any security, the more you have, the better. Do you need any more? There's the hosts are going to try to sell you the next package, Website Security Essentials, that protects your site's information. So SSL certificate protects the users of your site. Website security protects your site information from being hacked and being, and that's about $85 to $200 a year, depending on how good you want it to be. And that's how big a website, how many things you're selling, are you taking people's credit card information on your website? It's just, hackers will hack, and the more you have, the better. Is there any way I could say you don't need this level and you do need that level? I've had GoDaddy say, yeah, you're going to need this. And my developer said, no, you're not going to need it. I go back to GoDaddy and say, my developer said I don't need it. GoDaddy says your developer's crazy. So you have to kind of just realize that, it's still the Wild West out there. And the more security you have, the better, if you can afford it. But definitely have a conversation with the host on what they mean when they give you security. And I'll go into that a little more detail in a second. If they have automatic backups, could be about $3 a month. It's not a bad purchase to make. They might have an anti-spam filter or package for about $25 to $50 a year. You're going to want to get that too, unless you're going to be spammed. You say, well, I don't understand, why do I need that if I have this and this? And there's a lot of different ways that spammers will get in. Some people will say, hey, you don't need the anti-spam. You just have to make sure your website doesn't have your email on it. Well, I want my email on my website. So all sorts of different things. Firewall protection is another one that, is arguable if you need it. It prevents hacks. They do 2 daily scans. If you get hacked and there's the malware on there, this is GoDaddy, for example. They'll go in and they'll fix it for you. They'll set you up with a system that improves your load time, so your site is faster. They'll monitor your listing on Google to see if you get blacklisted for doing too much spam, which I hope you aren't doing. If it's too much, if that costs too much of firewall protection, they also have a plan where for $83 a year, they'll restore your hacks. If you get hacked, they'll come in and fix it for like $83 a year or something like that, or a case-by-case basis. And you will get hacked. You will get hacked at one point or another. If you don't get this stuff, it'll happen. Trust me. But don't panic. Usually, make sure that you have a backup system in place. When you get into themes, you're going to pick a theme in Shopify, and you're going to, or any platform you go, you'll pick a theme for the most part. And you'll see what it looks like, a pre-designed template, if you will. And you select that one, and you go in and you change your pictures, you change your text, and you can change your colors. They can be standard or boring. Sometimes some tools allow you to buy premium themes. It might be a third-party company that they'll refer you to, or maybe you could just find a third-party theme that makes premium Shopify templates, if you will. Then there's going to be plugins. You're going to encounter plugin choices. So you're going to see something on your website. That's a little clunky. I want it to do this, and you could look in and say you'll find a plugin that can do what you want it to do. Now, when you do research on the plugins, because some of them will come with caveats, you'll get the plugin, you'll install it, you think it works, and then it'll have a watermark across the top that says buy pro version for full functionality. So do your research on plugins. They can do amazing things. Now, when it comes to Yeah, so and make sure they're up to date and keep up with that. You're surely going to encounter something you can't do. You're gonna find something you don't understand. Some tasks, even with the most easiest tools like Shopify and eBay, you're gonna encounter some tasks that involve code. At some point, it's gonna tell you to paste this code here, go to this, and you're gonna be, what? I don't know how to do that. So it might be configurations with your Google My Business page or your Gmail involving IP addresses and email aliasing, etc. So you're going to want to have either an IT professional or a web developer on hand for you to help you with that stuff. Now, I'll tell you right now, for professional website developers, when it deals with online back-end things, don't mess around and be ready to pay good money for this person. Don't try to find the cheapest person. Don't go on Craigslist. Don't hire your nephew. Find a professional to do this stuff because your customers' credit card information could be at stake. Expect to pay. Well, I'll tell you right now, the going rate for a professional developer is starting at $110 an hour. I charge about half that, and I pay my web developer double what I charge my customers. Happily pay him, and he does a good job. I've never been happy to pay $100 an hour in my life to anything, but without him, I have peace of mind with all my clients. I can call him up and say, hey, look, you check this website out, make sure everything's configured correctly, and he does, and it's good. So be ready for that. You also want to have ongoing website security practices. So change your password once in a while, especially if you get a hack. And if you have a database, if you're accessing your database on the back end or your developer is, change that password once in a while too. Again, especially after a hack. Run a virus scan occasionally, maybe once a month, maybe every 2 weeks. There's a company called Malwarebytes, MALWAREBYTES.com, and they have a good free virus scan tool. Of course, they're going to ask you, they're going to tell you it's better to buy the premium pro version for full security, but this is one of the better free tools you can start with. And also too, you want to have your IT person check your work sometimes too. It's not a bad idea. That's the basics of Shopify. You're gonna as far as you want to have some good photography. You want to have a strategy of why your product is different, and you want to have a strategy of getting people to your Shopify website. So you're starting a Shopify website. You can't just put it up on the web and expect people to come. It's like buying a warehouse up in Talega and thinking people are just going to drive by and pull in and buy your product because you exist. They don't know you exist. And you have to have a strategy, which means you're going to have to fork out some money for advertising. So some people say, well, that money that I was going to fork out for advertising, I'll just go to eBay or Amazon and pay those fees. And there you go. So it's just two strategies. Are you going to pay to pull the people to your website, or is Amazon going to pay to pull the people to your website? Kind of to your product, at least. When you do, I'll give you some simple best practices too. Keep it simple as you know. Keep your pictures pretty. Have multiple angles set up. And but just make sure you tell people why your product is different and give them all the information they need.
And Dan, so there's been a couple questions. Is it okay to take a couple questions right now?
Yeah, sure.
One question is, so what, how many hours should I expect to be putting into these 3 different platforms? I mean, what should be the expectation of a personal investment to do this e-commerce?
Good question. Good question. I would be prepared to, obviously it's going to depend on how many products you have, how often you're changing your products and updating them. But you want to expect, if you have a large company, you want to expect to have somebody, even if you're not selling anybody, you want to have somebody checking in on it. Say at least, have at least working 8 hours a week Somebody's going to be in there, depending on how much you're changing your products, of course. If you're not changing them at all, you don't need to spend 8 hours a week on there. But you want to have somebody managing it, pushing out the link. Basically, it comes down to how much you put into it is how much you get out of it. If the Shopify site is done, all your work is going to be getting people to the Shopify site. If you're, that's going to be the hard part, and that's a whole other topic. If you're on eBay or Amazon, your work is going to be, and I would advise you spend at least 2 hours a week just watching their tutorials until you feel like you're professional. Just slate Sunday night, 8 to 10, I'm watching Amazon tutorials or eBay tutorials. And as far as tutorials go, you're going to find a lot of free tutorials on regarding these on YouTube. Okay. Well, Amazon's going to have them. Amazon's going to have videos, eBay's going to have videos, and private people are going to have videos. If you watch Amazon's videos, you're going to learn a lot. There's going to be things that Amazon doesn't want to tell you in their videos, not in their videos. So you're going to want to watch some third-party videos on these things to learn the bad things that Amazon videos won't tell you. So let's say Amazon just some tool doesn't work. Amazon's not going to tell you it doesn't work. But the third party will. So be sure to learn both of those. And then there's a website called lynda.com, lynda.com, and they have third party tutorials that are really comprehensive. If you do find third party tutorials on YouTube, they won't be comprehensive. So the Amazon, they're going to be 1 or 2 videos that give you some great tips. And the guy says, if you want to learn more, sign up for my full tutorial program. But if you just signed up with lynda.com, you're going to have boatloads of comprehensive third-party tutorials. And I recommend lynda.com a lot. Probably, you could probably watch lynda.com and not watch Amazon or eBay's videos, but you can't go on YouTube and watch those videos and then not do anything else. Just make sure it's comprehensive, if you will. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So Dan, I guess it's kind of like going to the Oscars. So you've talked about 3 different platforms. You talked about Amazon, you've talked about eBay, you've talked about Shopify. So which one's the best? I mean, how do our small businesses kind of evaluate these to kind of try to streamline this?
Out of those 3, I'm going to say, in my opinion, it's Amazon. It's Amazon. If you go through, what I would do if I was, is go through Amazon and read the worst things about Amazon. Remember, Amazon doesn't have PayPal. If you think, hey, that doesn't bother me, you talk to a couple of your customers. Do you want to use PayPal? Do you need to use PayPal? No, I don't care about that. Okay, then that's not a big deal for you. Then you look at the Amazon pricing structure and you say, okay, I could deal with that. And do a little research and find out the worst things about Amazon, not the best. Okay, we all know the best. You're going to make money. So find out the worst things about Amazon, the most frustrating things about Amazon, and you're like, well, that's nothing for me. I could deal with that. I would go with Amazon then. If you have used items or items you're manufacturing in your garage or something like that, or something weird or might be a little more success on eBay. And then if you're just like, hey, look, this is going to be my company, not Amazon's or eBay's. I'm going to do this right. I got my social media person. I got my SEO person. I want to put a Shopify website. We're going to do a marketing push. We're going to bring people to the website. I have a following already. People already want my product already. Then you set up a Shopify account and you can keep all the money for yourself. But you have to kind of figure out your strategy. Are you going to bring people to your website, or are you going to use a tool that has people already there? And it could arguably be a wash. I mean, it's because they're so competitive that eBay will catch up, and they'll, Shopify will have a big corporate meeting and do something to kind of make it even, and it's going to be Ford versus Chevy at some point, but it's also going to be really based on your preferences and how you want to do business. I know that's not the answer you guys want to hear. It depends. Nobody what does that mean? Oh, great speech, Dan. What should I use? It depends. But it really does. It just depends on your strategy.
So it's basically investigating these 3 different platforms and kind of finding what's the best that fits you based on your research. Is that fair?
Yeah. I would pick one first. So that right now, if you're excited about Amazon, I'd say just go spend a week learning about Amazon and reading the best and the worst and calling anybody you know that has an Amazon store.
Perfect. Well, Dan, really appreciate all your comments. I'd like to give you the opportunity for any other final comments, or how we can find some more. If our attendees have any questions, how they can find out more information. So, what is your best? How best to contact you, Dan, and any other final comments that you would have?
Sure. If you have any questions, you want any links to how to get started on eBay, any links that I mentioned, shoot me an email. You can find my website easier than spelling my website. You can go to danclemente.com, and that's going to route you right to my website, which is schonbergdesign.com, which most people are not happy about spelling. So go to danclemente.com, and my email address will be on there. It's dan@schonbergdesign.com. Or you can hit me up on Facebook or Instagram. The links are on my website.
Well, cool. Well, hey, Dan, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate all the information for these e-commerce vehicles, which I think is so important in days such as this. So I just want to do a big thank you for joining us, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.